What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back for another live stream here. We got to look at Bitcoin after a massive rally yesterday. Of course, Donald Trump, President of the United States, announced that alongside Bitcoin and Ethereum, Solana, XRP, and Cardano even will be part of the strategic reserve for the United States. So really big news there, and no clear announcement yet about all the details and everything. So we have a bit of a potential buy the news, sell the rumor kind of, buy the rumor, sell the news kind of scenario here. And yeah, now we got a really strong resistance above us that, of course, we looked at for the last few weeks here, the 94 to 95K region, and then also below. And on the larger time frames, we need to look at the 90K to 92K region. That has been a major support level for Bitcoin throughout the last few weeks and months, right? So now we have to see what the confirmation levels are to the downside, what the confirmation levels are to the upside, and also some other stuff over on the CME chart, something really interesting. And yeah, guys, really interesting week coming up, a lot of action, hopefully, obviously massive volatility on a Sunday before the futures opening even. And now we got to see what is up next. So let's go straight into the charts and see what we can find there. But before, guys, I got to announce quickly as well here, or remind you that you should follow me over here on X as well. I'm updating that constantly. So all the charts we look at in the videos, I also post them over on X and update you guys there on different time frames. And here you can see some absolutely amazing and hilarious memes as well. So yeah, just go for it. Go over Patos Crypto, BitcoinEasy.io as well. I have two X accounts here that you should follow where you get a lot of interesting information all the time, you know. So you don't have to wait for new videos to come around when there's something crazy happening in the charts. I constantly update you there. And then over on the crypto loop as well on BitcoinEasy.io, we have some new additions here. We put in the financial news alongside the crypto news here in the latest news section. The global economic calendar has been expanded a bit, so it's easier for you guys to get your information there. And as always, you can just click on any event, get the full description, and then add it to your calendar on your device to get notified when any of these events happen. Now the newest addition here, the Crypto X feed, there you get all the latest news from all our favorite news sources over on X, and also some charts from selected traders that we like to follow over on X and have a good and solid lookout on the market, right? There's a lot of weird charts in the over on X as well. A lot of people that just joined the crypto world and start posting stuff now. But we made sure to narrow it down to popular X accounts that really know what they're talking about. So make sure to check that out. Also, the Fear and Greed Index here available in the market overview now. Everything. Yesterday we posted a picture over on X, everything beautiful and green. Now, of course, after a strong pump there into the resistance, we have some consolidation going on. And that you can always see here in the market overview section. Gives you a nice, clear visual of how the market is looking here in the heat map. And yeah, guys, go check it out over the crypto loop on BitcoinEasy.io. There you find everything, your one-stop shop for your daily news and analytics. And as you know, a big part of my daily morning routine to block out all the necessary noise over on X. Right, so now, without any further ado, let's go into the charts. 4-hour chart, starting out here on a smaller time frame first, and then going over into the daily chart, 3-day chart and weekly chart to see what's going on over there as well. So the first thing that we need to mention here, as I just said, we posted this over on Twitter yesterday. After we had the massive rally, that this area here, you see the gray box, right? This is coming here from our closing range within the previous local range that we were trading sideways after getting rejected at the current all-time high, the 109K top, right? So here we've been trading sideways basically the entire February until we lost that level here. Here's where I told you guys, if we start closing below it, then it's likely that we find a further target further down, and most likely in the 74K to 72K region. Obviously, you can see here we got a bounce at 78K. We did not go as low as expected yet, right, guys? We need to do a lot of stuff here to confirm support up there. So here on a local level, on the 4-hourly chart, we can see that the key level that we want to reclaim as support is, of course, here above that black line. right above 94,100. So we want to start closing 4-hour candles above there and then confirm that level as support by getting a retest either there or continuation of another bullish candle, and then test the range highs here in the 98K to 99K region, right? So that would look extremely bullish here from a 4-hour perspective. And then we see the Fibonacci retracement of the current correction here after the massive pump. And there we can see that we entered the Fibonacci retracement here through the entry level of the 38.2 and are now sitting right between the 38.2 and the 50 here. So the obvious thing to do here is that we want to get back above the 61.8 and then break the line in the sand here, which lines up nicely with the previous range closes here. So that also then from a Fibonacci perspective looks extremely bullish. If we break the line in the sand to 78.6, start closing above there and then confirm it as support as well. So that lines here perfectly on this chart. And then that obviously also looks really nice over on the daily chart, which we will look at in a second. But there we need to look at this key level here as well, the 38.2. This is right around 89K. Keep that number in mind. If we start correcting here, this is the area we want to find a bounce in, right? We have the support here from the previous range, from our downtrend where we got resistance here in alignment with the 38.2. This is a really strong area that we want to find a bounce in, 89K. Keep that number in mind. And now I think we have it covered here on the 4-hourly chart. Obviously, the worst case scenario here would be to close back below 79K, and then we would indicate further downside towards our targets of 72K and 74K. Keep those numbers in mind as well. This is a massive thing that we will see later on another chart, that we have a target there in that area that we really need to meet. And the question is, will we do it before we put in a new all-time high or afterwards? We'll look at that later on a different chart. And now let's go over into the daily chart. And here we see basically exactly what we predicted over on X as well, and in our last videos, right? So let's find it here quickly on X. Here we have it. So I posted this actually on my private account here, Pat Does Crypto, and where I said there are many possible scenarios for Bitcoin to continue in this bull market. But if I had to bet the house on one of them, this would be the one for Bitcoin, right? So a rejection in the current area where we're in, right here, you can see this arrow going up there, rejection, and then back down to 72K and 74K. This makes a lot of sense here just from price action and from all the key levels that lay above us, right, that we get really strong resistance from, but also will be visible on the other chart that I keep teasing here, guys. So make sure to stick around to the end of the video. I want to break down, I don't want to give you any clickbait or anything here. I just want to break down the charts for you first, show you the confirmation levels on different charts, and then we go over there. So here on the daily chart, very clear as well. We want to reclaim this range here. You see the gray box? And this is where I told you guys, we don't want to close in this gray box on the way down. And here we had a candle where we got rejected here at that key level right around 98,300, a level that we spoke a lot about in the past. There was a confirmation level on the 4-hourly chart, then became a confirmation level on the daily chart as well after we got rejected there and closed back below it. Now, obviously, from a trend perspective, we want to get a break in the market structure here, right? The market structure being a downtrend where we're printing lower lows and lower highs here. We want to break the previous high and put in a higher high, and then confirm it with a higher low, or just continue up from there and take any of these levels above us as support to confirm that higher low then. So that is by definition a trend reversal then. You see the trend line here. Of course, a break above there is very aligned here with the key area that we want to get above. But what we want to make sure always is not to just break out from a diagonal line. The real confirmation always lays right at the previous high, and that's what we want to close above to confirm the thesis, right? So right about 98,350, almost on the spot, that's where we want to close above on a daily closing basis to confirm a breakout here. But first of all, the more less bullish thing, also bullish, but we want to be a bit more conservative here and see what is in front of us potentially next, right? And the first thing we want to do here is, like I just said, we don't want to close back inside this gray box, because every time we visited this box and got a bounce out of it, we just touched it and then flew up from there to our range high, so at least 102K range, right? So every time we just threw a wick in here and then ended up closing way above there and put in new highs within our range. We touched it so many times here, and that's why I told you guys, if we, at this point here, where everything looked like we're breaking out and challenging the previous all-time high, and then that hack occurred on Bybit where the hacker took 1.4 billion worth of ETH, then obviously the whole market crashed again. We found our bottom here right around 78,300 and got rejected at exactly that spot. So what we want to do now here is get back above there and then not close in this range here again, because that is the range that we want to find bounces from, right? As we did before, we just go in there and find demand and get back up. If we start closing within this range, that means there's not as much demand in the area from the bulls and that we're potentially looking for a lower price target. The exact same thing basically that we discussed previously for weeks here on the channel, where I told you guys, whenever we come down here, we want to bounce. We don't want to stay there. We don't want to close there, and especially we don't want to close below. So here you can see bulls had a really, really clear sign here, as well as bears, to enter short positions when we started closing and did not find immediate demand here, right? We got in there, closed in there, but did not bounce back up. And then this candle here closed below it, and that was your last indicator basically on the daily chart here that we lost that range now and that we're looking for a lower price target. So the scenario that we see here now could be very similar to what we saw in the previous range that we talked a lot about as well, guys, where we went down to certain price levels, couldn't find enough demand there eventually, and then broke down from there and went back down to the previous range highs to pick up demand from there to then rally out there. So that's why, as you know, our target here was the whole time in the 72K to 74K range. And the scenario where I told you guys that this is the one where I would bet the house on if I had to, which I would never do, obviously, because it's a game of probabilities and not certainties. And then obviously this one here is still in play, right? We just went up exactly to the area that we predicted here. Let me just remove the small Fibonacci retracement here. Where's the height? Here. And there you see we just got exactly to that spot, got rejected here at the 50 at the Fibonacci retracement. Obviously, we still have a bit of room to the upside here. So we could just see another scenario where the price here goes higher to those key levels, right? The 61.8 of that retracement here from the current all-time high to the current low, right? There we have the 61.8 in perfect alignment with the previous range highs. And then we could just get above this downsloping trend line here as well from the falling wedge, test that area, get rejected, come back down, find a lower price target to pick up demand, and then bounce up from there. That is this scenario that I told you guys is most likely for me, of course, before the big announcement by Trump. Now we got to see, are we breaking above these levels or are we getting rejected here? And that is where it becomes decisive. Any closes here within that range, okay, so we're looking for a close above the previous range closing low, the same as we just saw on the 4-hourly chart. Obviously here it's sitting a little higher, right around 95,500. And then the top of that range on a closing basis being 98,350, as we just saw as well. So that range here, we want to reclaim that range, get back in there, at least trade sideways, right? Get something like a breakout here and then maybe a retest, and then bounce here back up from the 50, or just immediately go straight through the 61.8, then cross the line in the center 78.6, which you see is here also in a perfect area now. If I just pull up a horizontal ray here, I'll show you. It's also an area that we've been talking about a lot here on the channel, since that's the key area, really, really logical point for traders to take profits here within this sideways trading range, right? Since we bounced out of this area every time, we did not get up here to the 106 to 109K range every time. We only did it twice. But when we came out of this area, we always ended up visiting the 102K range. So that is a very, very strong resistance level here now with the line in the center, 78.6, lining up there. So this is what we want to get above. First, recapture this range here between 95,500 and 98,300. Break out of there and then break the 102K range. And then there's nothing in our way here to challenge the previous all-time highs and get back above the 109K top here. So this very clear everything, hope guys. And to the downside, I just told you guys, we don't want to close below 91,900 on a daily closing basis. And if we get into that area, we want to find an immediate bounce here, somewhere above 98,300, right? We could go lower, but we want to, the main thing is that we close back above here, 91,900. There you see, that's why it's so important here that if we go down to the level that I told you guys on the 4-hourly chart here, down here in this range where the 50 and the previous supply area here lines up, that's where we want to find a bounce then, because that lines up perfect here with the daily chart with our previous range lows here. So that would be an extremely good spot to find a bounce in case we go lower now. To the upside, everything clear. To the downside, everything clear. And then, of course, if this breaks, then we have perfect alignment down here in this range from the downsloping support here, the demand area of this falling wedge. And then, of course, the previous range highs here that would turn this extremely strong resistance, then would turn into support. And there we've meted up. There we also find a lot of other support as well then in that area, coming from other charts that I'll show you in a second as well. Let's just see if we have it all covered here. I think so. Here's still the most likely scenario for me, guys, that we get a rejection here and then eventually go lower. Do we get rejected exactly here where we are? No, because I did not expect, obviously, that this all happens in one candle, right? If we get, I was expecting that we move sideways here a little bit, sideways and up, and then come to this resistance here, somewhere in the area of the 50, and where the 50 meets the downsloping resistance, right? But as we went up this steep, we obviously met the resistance from the previous range lows here on a closing basis in alignment with the downsloping resistance as well. So now we got to see if we go a little bit higher here, test that 61.8 and the previous range highs, then get rejected, or we manage to break above there. That's the key thing that we want to see. So I think that's all covered here now. That's obviously then the more bullish scenario if we break straight above, and the slightly less bullish scenario, obviously not as direct to our target as the other one, but still giving a huge opportunity to accumulate here some more Bitcoin. And there's a big likelihood that this level holds here, which you will see now. So here we are on the 3-day chart. Let's pull up some moving averages as well. Here we go. I think that's it. Yeah. This is here the 100 SMA on the 3-day chart. And we can see that in the previous range here that we just saw on the daily chart as well, where we picked up demand, where we couldn't find enough demand in that area and then ended up going down to the previous range highs to pick it up from there, right? There we ended up going down and just breaching the 100 3-day SMA here. And as you see here, this lines up perfectly with the support from our falling wedge here, and is just above the key area of 74K and 72K. So here we could have a very similar scenario where we get rejected here in the area, come back down there, just go slightly below it as we did here and here, touch the area of 72K and 74K, find a bounce there, and then get back above it. That's the most likely, most bullish scenario for Bitcoin if we find a lower price target again. And that lines up perfectly here as well on the weekly chart with a key moving average, guys. I broke it down in the last video and in all the videos before, the last few videos before that. And years ago, when we already spoke about the bear market back in 2022. So, yeah, 2022, that's when I was posting videos back then. And there you see here the same thing as well. We have the 50-week SMA lining up here perfectly above that range. You can see that's the same thing here. We touched it twice and then got back up from there. Every time in a bull market, once we started closing below it, we marked that the bull market is over and that we're now in a bear market. Let me just show you historic examples for that. Let's just go back to 2013. Yeah, here we have it. 2013 cycle top, right? You can see it right here. We bounced off the 50-week SMA. We fell below it and we put in our bear market low here. We got rejected by it. The moment we closed back above it, we marked the beginning or confirmed the bull market start, right? You can see it here. We didn't fall below it. And when we did, here after our 20K top in 2017, We bounced off it. The moment we fell below it, we got rejected by it and put in our low. The same thing happened again in the last cycle here. You can see the moment we got above it, confirmed above it here after our critical lows here in March 2020, the moment we got back above it, we were in a bull market again. We got a bounce from it in a very similar spot like the range that we looking to touch now, right? We had this accumulation phase, put in our first top, broke down, and then revisited the 50-week SMA, bounced from it. The moment we started closing below it here, we got rejected by it again, went into a bear market. And even this cycle, same thing happened. We got rejected by it. The moment we crossed the line, got above it, we never fell below it again, and we were in a bull market. So a key indicator here showing us that the most likely scenario here is as well, I mean, we have revisited already in this cycle, but there's potential that if we get down in this area, then we have to look at this moving average here, the 50-week SMA, make sure that Bitcoin does not close below it. Well, we can't make sure, but we have to just see that when it happens, that we know that that's a very strong confirmation that the bull market is over, right? And this is in confluence here with this key area. And there you have it, guys. This is basically everything across the charts here for confirmation levels. The other thing that I told you guys, the most bullish thing that we could see here, where I told you last week, is that we find a bounce here somewhere in this area and then close back on a weekly closing basis within our range here. And that's exactly what we did. We formed this $18,000 weekly candle here, touched this area here at 78K, bounced from it, and came back into a range, closed back inside the range. So that's obviously an extremely bullish sign here. And this is the main thing that shows us that potentially we're not going down to the 74 and 72K levels. But the main thing here is to keep an eye on the confirmation levels on the daily chart and on the 4-hour chart, because there we know exactly the range support that we're looking for, right? We don't want to close below here. Once again, 91,900 on a daily closing basis. And then on a 4-hour closing basis, we want to get back above here, above 94,100 and start reclaiming that range. Now let's look at the other chart that I promised you guys. And for that, we go here onto the futures chart. Let's go to the daily. And here we have the CME chart for Bitcoin. So I just posted this on X as well. So you might have seen it already. But a really, really interesting thing to look at here that confirms the thesis of that we're going down again before we're breaking the current all-time high is that this gap down here. A lot of people are saying, hey, this gap is mostly filled. But guys, filling a gap means that we're trading within the area at least for a while, right? And we haven't even reached the bottom of the area. You have to connect the closing price and the opening price. So this is the closing price on a Friday when the CME futures close, and then the opening price when the CME futures open again. So connecting the wicks makes no sense, right? We need to go to the bodies. And here we can clearly see that that gap here between 81,120 and 77,345 has not been filled yet. And here's just a few examples of CME gaps on this chart that you can see that all have been filled. There's not a single one that hasn't been filled in this range, right? And here we have one that we just filled now. You can see right here, this was a gap where I told you guys this is a clear target now on the way up. And this is also exactly then where we got rejected, just above it, right? Now to the downside, we can see, because on Friday, last Friday, obviously we closed the candle here. We put in this beautiful doji candle here on the CME chart, indicating a trend reversal here as well and further upside for Bitcoin. But then this gap, this candle here closed right at 84,620. And the next candle for Bitcoin yesterday or today, when the futures market opened again, opened at $95,000 exactly. So here we have a more than $10,000 gap, CME gap, that obviously needs to be closed as well. And that comes here exactly down to 84,620. Really strong level here, of course, as well on the charts that we saw on the smaller time frames. But more importantly here, the other gap that's right below it is right at 77,345. And if you look at any CME gap, we didn't always just touch the top of the gap or the bottom of the gap. We always went way beyond it, right? So the likelihood here to close the two gaps is pretty big. Question is, will it happen after we put in an all-time high, or will it happen on the way down after we put in our cycle top and coming back down into a bear market. So these are the two scenarios that are obviously here on the table now. But this just lines up perfectly with the thesis that we're going back down again before we're going further up. So what we would have to see here for that is a rejection in the current area, get back down to about the 84 to 85K range, close this gap here, and then put in our low right below 77,000. And that brings us then to this clear area here again, 74K. Then we would do the same as we always do when we close these gaps, shoot past the gap, put in a bottom or a high, and then bounce back up from there. So this is what we want to see here as well. If Bitcoin ends up closing this gap before we put in our all-time high, then we want to get back down here, close the gap, bounce from the 74K to 72K range, and then come back up here and challenge our previous highs. Right, guys, that's it. That's nothing new either here. That's something I shared today on X. So once again, make sure to follow me over there, BitcoinEasy.io and Pat Does Crypto. And that's where you get all the fastest updates all around the clock, right, guys? And you don't always have to wait for a new video to come out, because I mean, now I've been posting a lot of streams, a lot of videos, and I will be posting another video today as well, as promised. Since yesterday, the massive pump didn't give me time to finish the video, but it will be part one of our series about Fibonacci trading, the Fibonacci trading system that I still utilize. One of my first systems that I created back in 2016 when I started trading, that is still part of my daily trading arsenal, one of my go-to strategies. And I will show you exactly how you can implement that. And it's a really good system that's applicable for any level of trader. If you're a complete beginner or if you're an expert, you will find a lot of value in it. Right, guys, hope I broke it down for you. And make sure as well, of course, to get over to the Crypto Loop. Check that out. That's where you get all your updates all around the clock as well. Whenever you want to know when a big economic event is coming up, or you just want to get a clear overview of the market and get also some nice news from traders on Twitter and crypto news sources on Twitter without having too much noise, come over here. You have it all conveniently gathered in one place, and we made sure we select sources that give you good information without any clickbait and without any hopium here. Just clear data and guys with experience that are posting charts there. Right, guys, that's it for me for today, at least for this Bitcoin analysis. I'm off to the gym now. After that, I will be tweaking the strategy video, the Fibonacci trading system, and then I will post it later on. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for joining. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, like the video, really helps me out as well. Comment down below, let me know what else you want to see. I mean, like the stream, not the video. And hit the notification bell to get notified when the strategy video comes out and whenever I go live or post videos here on the channel. Right, guys, I'm out. And as always, happy trading and see you soon.